Good morning, and we know that you are. How do we say this? Electronically challenged this morning. You were. Are you still lacking power?
Yeah, probably won't have power until sometime tonight, hopefully.
Wow.
Yeah, it went out while we were doing the game down in Peachtree City yesterday, and it's weird in the complex that I'm in. I'm assuming that either a tree or a branch or what have you took out like a very specific line because there's power for some and there's not power for others, and maybe it's not a simple fix because it's going to be a while, they said.
Well, yeah, and you got to get in the queue too. So it'd be like serving number 37. Oh, it's this house in an apartment complex somewhere. So you got to wait for your number to be served. Before we get into all the other things, when you came in, we were discussing what happened last night in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, where it was a long night for the Herons in Monterrey.
Well, without power, I have not had a chance to catch up on this match, but I am not surprised. Monterrey is legit, and we talk about the Messi effect all the time, and I think some people over expect on the Messi effect. He is one man. He's not Superman, even though he plays like it sometimes.
Yes.
So that team, as it's fully constructed, is not really at the same level as a Monterrey to my mind. I think Monterrey might not have a Messi, but they have more balance. And we've had this conversation before about CONCACAF, where from a big picture perspective, what's the line that people use all the time? Like, oh well, Club America and Monterrey, they've got 10 designated players.
Yeah, the Caleb Porter line, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not exactly how it goes. I would be trying to come up with a good line too after I got trounced the way that New England got trounced.
I was about to say, Caleb Porter went right back in the doghouse after winning his promise game against Charlotte. So
yeah, I don't know if he got out of the doghouse, but they have more balance, and they do have more top end in some cases. Probably not as much as Miami and the top 3 players, but then the next 3 are a decent bit better, and then the next 3, I think, when you're talking about a Miami, especially, are a whole lot better, and that's where you start to see the change. It's not players, honestly, to me, across the board. It's not players 1 through 6 generally. It's more of players 6 through 14 where you're seeing that difference. And look, the proposed rules that are on the table that might take effect for Major League Soccer in mid-season start to address a little bit of that. They can create a little more flexibility for teams to be stronger throughout the middle as well as the top end, and have a few different ways to construct how they want. But to me, the biggest thing that's going to need to change when we talk about CONCACAF is you're going to have to see more teams be able to develop good talent within their academies.
Mm-hmm.
I think the easy fix that everybody's going to point to is just spend more money. And yes, the league needs to spend more money, and they will. But the way that you can compete with these kinds of teams on a regular basis is you take it out of the, all right, I'm going to go spend on this player, and I hope that he doesn't get hurt, and I hope that he's a good fit for my locker room, and I hope that everything works out. You develop guys from within, and you have to get to that point. You can't sacrifice your long-term development for chasing a big signing. And I don't think Miami's done that. I want to be clear. I think Miami, as a very young club, has developed some guys and some good players. David Ruiz is a player that I love in this league, and he's one who was suspended for this game because of a bad second yellow. They've done a good job as a young club in developing guys, but across the board for MLS, it's not purely spending more. It's developing as well.
Yeah, so before we get into Training Ground and She Believes and NYC and Philly, since we've gone down this road with you, the proposed ideas, you have the possibility, or the option to have 3 DPs, 3 U22s, or 2 and 4, and you get $2 million in GAM. So the option is there either way.
Yep.
The idea also that you get the second get out of jail free card with a player. You sit there and it's like, nope. And you go from 1 to 2. This was a bad idea. Then you can jettison 2 instead of 1. and then the other notions. When you looked at these three basic tenets that were brought to the table that were approved by the BOG, but still have to be approved, obviously, by the Players Association. You mentioned one, but what do you think about the others?
I like them. I think the more roster flexibility that you can create is a good thing. And we've talked about it a lot over the years since the U22 initiative came in, making it to where it's 3-3 if that's what you want to do. That's a good thing because that's increasing the spending across the board. I like the flexibility if teams don't want to go with 3 designated players. Okay, you can get an additional U22 player. If that suits your strategy, okay, cool. And you get some extra GAM, which gives you basically another good player in the middle of that roster that you can go get if you want to go that way. Or you can go with 3-3. You've got flexibility. I like the ability in a cap league specifically to be able to get out of contracts, whether it's due to injury, due to bad fit, what have you. I like where they're headed. And I know everybody's going to say more. I get it. I understand. But you can't do that in midseason. Midseason, you can do these kinds of moves. More is going to take a longer conversation with the MLS Players Association. And they need to be on board with this.
Yes.
They really need to be on board with this because it will serve their current members. I don't want to see the MLSPA be maybe lukewarm on these kinds of things because then new people would be coming into the league that might hurt some of their existing members. People might get replaced. If you go and upgrade talent, there's going to be guys who are not at that level and are going to get bumped.
Mm-hmm.
For the good of the game, it has to be across the board that we invest more in the talent in this league. But like I said at the beginning, that cannot be totally at the expense of developing your own talent because that's the game changer for teams, in my opinion. You're going to miss on some signings.
Yeah.
You're going to miss on bringing guys in. You can control to a point, and I think you can control it a lot more than your random signings. You can control your development process, and that's something they're going to have to do right.
All right, Jarrett, on the rundown, where do you want to go next?
I don't know. Just being on top of things.
You got training facility.
Yeah, let's talk training facility because we just got done talking about that and the changes to the training facility, the investment that's incoming, and hopefully more clubs do the same and start investing in building up their training grounds, and we end up with even more world-class facilities in this country.
Yeah, I think they have been. I think Atlanta was ahead of the curve on this and building a very top-level training facility that would be suitable in really any country in the world. And you've seen others follow suit. I think New England is the prime example of a club that has followed Atlanta's lead. And look, maybe that's Arthur Blank making sure that Robert Kraft knows, hey, I've got a soccer team. I should probably invest in it because they have. And that's a good thing. And I think Arthur has shown that if you invest and you do things properly, you're going to get a return on your investment. And it has to be seen as an investment. I think at times we just look at it like, it's just spending. No, it's an investment. And in this case, this is going to be an investment across quite a few different areas of the club. You're going to be able to more comfortably have teams come in and train there and not disrupt the first team because you'll have the extra space. You're going to be able to, have more for your second team, more for your academy, more dedicated spaces inside to allow guys to recover better. You're going to have the classroom kind of space for the academy kids, but also to be able to sit down and do more video analysis with players on the first and second team. It's big across the board and in the studio space. I mean, this is a club that has already invested a lot in terms of digital. And I think you've seen that return on investment. The fan base has, I think the sponsors have as well. And you're going to be able to do even more now having that dedicated studio space inside the building.
Yeah, I have these visions now of you and the Hoff a couple of years in the new studio space, going completely and totally more off the rails than you do now.
Well, I mean, we're kind of liking doing these shoots out in the wild and getting creative with it. The one this week should be very entertaining if it comes out the way that I think it did from our shoot yesterday. it's fun, and doing that stuff, like, and being able to be creative with it and have fun with it. I hope it comes off to the fan base and they enjoy it as well. I mean, that's the whole goal. But when you give these very talented, basically filmmakers,
Mm-hmm.
more toys to work with and more space to work in, yeah, I think you're going to get some gold out of it.
Yeah, I just have this vision of the two of you with green screens and motion technology and these kinds of things, superhero kind of deals. I'm looking forward to it. So, and they say
Please
that
give Jason a Marvel green screen.
oh, that'd be
If
fantastic.
we have a green screen, things could get really out of hand.
Yes.
Really, really out of hand.
And they're saying
that's the point.
They're saying it's going to take a year. That they said it should be ready by summer of 25. So, looking forward to that. Have you even had the chance to recover from your She Believes Saturday yet?
I was telling Joe yesterday as we were talking about it. I don't know if I'm weird in this way or if this is normal, but I almost felt like a delayed reaction to tiredness.
Mm-hmm.
Like Saturday was just so. I mean, I was tired at the end of the day Saturday. When I got home at about 2:45 in the morning and like home after calling 2 games and flying back and forth to New York, I was really tired. But then I woke up like normal time, and Sunday was okay, and Monday was really busy with everything we did with the training center opening. And it's almost like Tuesday, I felt like I hit a wall.
Yeah.
And would have just been dragging ever since. It was crazy. I mean, it was amazing, but it was really crazy that I did it and that everything lined up to be able to do it. I mean, I think everybody who listened to the women's national team game on 92.9 The Game, we've got great feedback from people who listened. It was piped into the stadium, and a lot of people heard it. And yeah, it's the first time that the women's national team's been on English language radio, maybe any radio for the women. That's crazy to me. Like, that doesn't feel like something that should be. It shouldn't be the first time in 2024.
Yeah,
it is. And I hope that we get to do a lot more with it. I hope everybody on the federation side was really happy with it. And in the game in New York, I mean, getting there, basically walking in right before the anthem starts in the booth, and having to really hustle across the parking lot to get in there because my cab got stuck on the corner at 720. And I'm like, all right, do I see if he can get through this traffic or do I just hightail it? And I hightailed it and got literally from there into the booth. I sat down right before the anthem was getting ready to start. So yeah, it was nuts.
Jarrett, go for it. I'm laughing.
All right. Well, aside from that, let's talk about this week. All that's in the past. You have a game this Sunday back home. You're digging into your depth, and you have the last team coming into the league that has not lost a match this week with Philadelphia. What are you looking for into this game, Jason?
I think for the team to, even with the absences that they're gonna have to be very brave on the ball. And when you look back at the last 2 times they've played Philadelphia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I think that's been the hallmark of the way that they've played. Even the scoreless draw in 22, the win in 23, both times they basically had a little bit of a blank you attitude about the press. They didn't care. They weren't worried about it. They didn't panic. Then they played through it. And I think you can do that even with the pieces that you're missing. It's going to be, I would assume, Noah Cobb and Luis Abram. Mm-hmm. I asked Noah about his increased confidence getting a series of starts in a row, and he said, I've noticed it, and he echoed it. He's picking out passes further up the field. He's more comfortable to not settle for the simple pass. He's looking to break lines. Getting these games will help make him ready for a game like this against Philadelphia. Luis Abram on the ball, very, very good with his left foot. You have nothing to worry about there. And he looked very good in the intra-squad scrimmage on Tuesday as well. He played a good bit since he didn't play in New York to get his sharpness up. He looked very good on Tuesday with the ball, specifically like switching the point of attack. And that's going to be the key, especially if Philly comes out and does what they did in the second half against Nashville. They went back to their 4-4-2 diamond, which they hadn't been doing. And we know they kind of alternate back and forth between 4-3-3. And sometimes they will play three center backs. They've done that a little bit more over the past couple of years. But the 4-4-2 diamond is, to me, that's quintessential Philadelphia Union under Jim Curtin. And if they do that, then that means there is going to be opportunities out wide to switch. And we've seen this team have a lot of success when they've done that in general. So you're going to have to look at that. And I think Cobb and Abram are going to be two of the main players. Slish as well, but I think he's going to get maybe bottled up a little bit in that diamond. If Cobb and Abram can hit the big switches to the opposite wings or fullbacks, especially with Lennon getting up high, Atlanta can open Philadelphia up.
So we've talked about the back. Let's talk about the front. Jamal gets 3 goals. And if you look at the replay of the goal that he scored against NYC, I mean, he was laboring as he was running to make contact on the header to put the ball in the back of the net. So you won't have Jamal for another couple of weeks. Obviously, recovery will dictate how long this is. They were saying 2 to 4, but once again, it's recovery. Do we have any kind of an update on Gigi or Rios to be there at the 9?
Rios is good to go. I think with Daniel, it was a little bit of a combination of just really getting back into full rhythm because he wasn't playing consistently at Chivas. And you can train and you can do cardio and all of that, but if you're not playing, it's a different toll on your body. And I think he didn't feel right after those minutes in Toronto, and they wanted to be very, very careful with him. And that's why, even to the point that I think he was going to be in New York and gonna be part of that, and then they held off just to be sure. And I think that's going to pay off this week, honestly, because I think he's fully ready to go. He played on Tuesday in that scrimmage. Didn't notice any issues with him at all. Didn't notice any limitations with him. I don't know about Giacomakis at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and I think it's been described as more of a bone bruise. There wasn't anything structural. Bone bruises are really odd to try to put timelines on because a lot of it depends on exactly where it is and how much it is affected by movement.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, just going back and thinking through the actual injury, I'm pretty sure that it's like right around the knee, I think below the knee.
Mm-hmm.
So every step, every bend of the knee, anytime you run, anytime you put weight on that leg, you're going to feel that. It's really difficult. Gigi's a pretty tough guy. So if he's able to go, he's going to go and give you something. I don't know what he's going to be able to give. He did not participate in that scrimmage on Tuesday, which doesn't mean that he won't be able to go on Sunday, but we'll find out more tomorrow when Gonzalo Pineda speaks to the media.
Jarrett, what else is on your mind?
You know, I guess as well, I wanted to ask sorry.
What are you giggling about?
No, I'm just thinking about like trying to keep Gigi off the field on a scrimmage probably involves multiple chains, possibly.
There might have been a straitjacket. There might have been. I did not see it, but yes, I think it probably was not easy to keep him off the field.
So I want to ask you about a guy that we know well, but people might not know as well if they haven't seen Tuesday's games. I imagine he's going to be part of this conversation until guys get healthy in Efrain Morales, just in case people see him, what to expect when they see them so they can be the hipsters in their lives and feel really cool when they explain who he is to people.
Yeah, you definitely want that. You want to be really cool to be able to say those things to people before they are commonly thrown around the Bird app, or is it still the Bird app? Is it the X app or whatever?
I just call it the decomposing app. Bird at this point.
That works. Wow. The dead bird app. Yeah, it is. You always want to be cool in those spaces. So we'll give you what you need to know. Efrain is, for one, over the past 2 years, he's finally healthy. And look, this is a young player who's got a lot of games of experience under his belt, but he's a young player who had, I think, literal growing pains. I mean, he's a big guy. And when you have those growth spurts, as an athlete, you're going to have some injuries. Some guys more than others. I think everybody deals with it, and it's something that is fascinating when you look at player development and you really get into the weeds of it, and you start to get into the physical side of player development. Because typically we're talking about tactics, we're talking about technique, we're talking about experience, but the physical side for everybody. And I think we saw it with George Bello. When he had an injury, he had a groin injury that was nagging, eventually had to be surgically repaired. Caleb Wiley, with being able to play 90 minutes, it was hard for him because he would go, and he'd run himself into the ground too early. Everybody's different. And I think with Ephraim, it was more substantial, the literal growing pains. So it was hard to get him on the field and keep him on the field. But the last couple of years, he's played over 20 games with Atlanta United 2 consistently. This preseason, he was very, very good with the first team. They did make the conscious decision, and I think it was the right one, because of having Abram, having Cobb being in the form that he was in preseason as well, having Gregerson, having Williams. That's 4 center backs. They sent Morales back to the second team, I think, the last week of preseason. So he was able to be with them, and he's played their 2 games so far. And I thought he was outstanding, and he showed a lot of physical and mental toughness to come back from Toronto and be able to go 90 minutes in that last Tuesday game against Carolina Core. Well, now with Gregerson recovering from a meniscus injury, with Williams out with a calf, that's 2 of your 4 out. So that means it's Cobb and Abram, and that means Morales is your number 3. It also means if he doesn't play on Sunday, he's probably going to play on Monday.
Yep.
And be ready to go for Atlanta United 2, because he needs to get those games and be able to keep developing. It's this weird balance with young guys of managing the tactical exposure, the technical development, the physical development, and keeping them sharp and getting games. I think what we've seen from Ephra is he's rounded in who he is. He's physical. He's great in the air. He is very good with the ball at his feet. He's got that big switch with his right foot out wide to the right or the left. And I think what I'm starting to notice that I didn't see in the past is a little bit of a mean streak. And that's good. It's an intimidation factor. And it's something that I think he has started to grow into. He's going to be bigger than a lot of guys he's going up against. And he's learning how to use that effectively. And that's a good spot to be in for a ball-playing center back. I mean, at his heart, he's a soccer player. He's not just a big guy who can play center back. He's a soccer player who can play center back and knock you over. I like that combination that he gives you. And set pieces, he's proven to be a really good weapon in those areas as well.
I know that you are both electricity challenged and electricity dependent. I don't want you to burn all of your batteries here in this particular segment. So we'll just go ahead and say, what are the broadcast plans for the match this weekend?
So we are on Star 94, pregame coverage, 5 Stripes Countdown, 1:30 with Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman. 2:40 kickoff, so not the normal Fox kick, which is much later. This one's going to be 2:40. We're on Star 94 on the Odyssey app. If you're not going to be in the building and you're watching on Apple TV, you can listen to us synced up there with the home team radio option. And then we'll have the full-time report afterwards. Mike and I will head down to the locker room. We'll get some exclusive interviews for you guys there. You can always listen to that as a podcast as well if you don't catch it live. And then I've got some Atlanta-centric jams for your ride home on Star 94 afterwards.
There you go. I hope and pray that you are not 37th in line to get your power restored to the casa in the office. I hope that you get accelerated up the line and get your power back soon. Weather permitting, we will be at Decatur for 5:30 and 7:30 with St. Pius and Decatur on the Mixler app as well, eh?
Yes, we will. And when you already get text that they're not expecting to have the power back on until at least 7 p.m., it's not a good line. That line's pretty bad. It's not a good setup. It's not a good look. But we will be, if weather permitting, Decatur High School, St. Pius Decatur, 5:45 and 7:45, I think, for these. Might be 6 and 8. We'll see. Yep. Either way, be ready to roll on Mixler at about 5:45. And then tomorrow we're Gainesville and Johnson, a really good rivalry up in Hall County. That is at 6 and 8. Saturday for me, I'll be on the Atlanta United U19 game at 4:00. That'll be on the Atlantic Soccer Media Group YouTube page. I'll share the link for that. I'm really fascinated on that one with all of my broadcasts coming up, and then first team and then second team on Monday. I'm going to get to see the whole gamut Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You mentioned the injuries, like it is a knock-on effect. So you're going to see Morales, for example, on the bench with the first team on Sunday. If he doesn't play, he'll play for the second team on Monday. But if he plays on Sunday, then you've got to have an academy player from the 19s probably be ready to go on Monday for the 2s. So that affects your 19 roster, which means you might be dipping into the 17s for the 19s. And yeah, there you go. The accordion starts to open and close, and it gets a little funky.
All right, so let me see if I've got this right. High school, high school, high school, high school, U19 first team, second team.
So high school last night, high school tonight, high school Friday, U19 on Saturday, first team on Sunday, second team on Monday.
Playoffs after that for high school.
Probably high school on Tuesday. Then I'm doing a speaking engagement on next Wednesday. That's pretty cool. And then high school and games, and I don't know. Just tell me where to be.
Exactly. You and me both, brother. Like I said, just make sure that everything stays charged. We'll catch up with you soon, and we'll see you, hopefully, weather permitting, at Decatur.
Adios.